it from a resonance frequency to a resident frequency, which is two frequencies in resonance with a pulse wave.
Yes, that's
what breaks structure, because it's a powerful wave.
That's exactly what I am looking to engineer and develop and need, and we can create anything out of anything.
Well, that's what the little piezo buzzers do. They create a pulse wave.
Yeah, see, I was saying the piezo. Yeah, okay, piezo buzz. Yes.
So they create a little pulse wave that goes in there, and if you have something in resonance, it excites it and pushes more plasma out the other end. It literally forces a higher amount of energy to come out the other side of that coil. That's what it does.
That is the key. And what?
It's an over unity device. I mean, think about it. It's literally an over unity device in your system, because it's amplifying what's in there already. It's taking that same frequency of that coil and repeating it back to itself and pushing more of the amount out of it. Now, how many times is it hitting, or which frequencies is it hitting? It might hit them all. If it does, you can end up, instead of a little spark, a big spark. So the engineering is fairly simple to some of this stuff. You just got to follow the flow of the energy and which way it wants to run. You know what I mean? Just show me the energy, how it flows, and then follow the nature of it. You know what I mean? That's all you got to do, just like Schauberger did. Just follow the flow, find out where it turns, where it likes to be doubled up at. You know what I mean?
Exactly what I've been observing, doing, and working with and on, and we are on many of the same wavelengths, my friends.
Nice.
And it's why we're discussing exactly this. I'm sorry, I got to take a call for 1 minute.
Go for it.
Do you got stuff you want to talk about, or would you like me to start and play a little bit of the Nassim video?
Go ahead and play his video so I can see what he's doing.
Okay. Right. Here we go. So it's like it's starting from the dimensional. I below the ground. It starts at the dot. But
okay.
I'll let this play, and then there's a few changes that I add to this that I'd like to go over at the end. But yeah.
Okay.
It said, this is dimension 0, and it doesn't exist. And I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. I knew from that moment on I was going to fail that class. Because I was way back, I was always nearest the door. And I could see the dot. So if I could see the dot, how is it that it didn't exist? And then the teacher did something remarkable. He put a bunch of dots together, made a line, and said, this is dimension 1, and it doesn't exist either, because it still doesn't enclose volume. And then he put 4 lines together, made a plane, called it 2D, and said that's the plane that all your comic strip books lives in, and it doesn't exist. And I could see, like, the kids were crushed, they were like, what? And then he did something miraculous. This is the equivalent of the, miraculous Big Bang, He did something miraculous. He took 6 of these planes, put them together to make a cube, called it dimension 3, and said, this one exists. And I was like, huh? How did that happen? Because I don't care if you put 100 million non-existing planes together, you don't get existence, right? If the dot that doesn't exist, right, makes the line that doesn't exist, makes a plane that doesn't exist, you don't get existence. You get non-existence to the 4th. Big issue. I didn't know at the time. Turns out many other thinkers had the same problem throughout the ages. One of them, one of the most famous one, was Buckminster Fuller. Another one was my father, actually, turns out. And, you know, they thought about it, but nobody really solved the issue. And so, why is this important? Well, this is actually the fundamental axiom that most of our physics are written on. And if we, in the math, we write those physics with. So if we have this wrong to start with, if it's incorrect or if it's incomplete, then we're going to get an incomplete or incorrect picture at the end. And so, because people learn this very early in their education, it's usually not revisited ever by the physics community. And at the end of the day, then they have superstrings theory and Calabi-Yau spaces trying to solve equation for unification for advanced physics, and they have to add, you know, planes of freedom one after the other to get like 248 dimensions of Calabi-Yau space, and the equations go on forever. And at the end of the day, it doesn't add up. All right? So, when I was going home from that day, I had this long bus ride to go back to my home because I kept on getting kicked out of the schools closer to my home. A physicist later on told me in a physics conference that that's how I furthered my education. Because I had all this time to think about it, right? And so I'm sitting there, I've got an hour and a half to go, and I'm thinking, man, I gotta solve this dimensional problem. This is not happening. I can't live with this. And I'm thinking, and then the bus is getting fuller and fuller, and I thought, oh, you know, it's getting hot, and so I closed my eyes, and in my mind's eye, I extruded myself from the bus, and I started rising up from the bus, and I saw slowly the bus becoming smaller as I rose further and further, and then I saw the city I was in becoming smaller as I rose further and further and further, and then the continent getting smaller, and then I saw the earth getting smaller, and as I rose further, I saw the solar system getting smaller, and like looking like a dot, and then I rose further and further, and then the galaxy started to look like a dot, and I thought, oh my God, it's dots all the way up. And then I flew back into the galaxy and looked at the solar system and flew back in and went back to the earth and found the bus I was in, and I opened my eyes and I looked at my hand and I thought, I wonder what's in there. I closed my eyes, and in my mind's eye, I flew into my hand, and I saw it was made out of millions and millions of dots we call cells. And then I went onto the surface of one of those dots and looked really carefully, and I got finer and finer, and eventually it opened up like it was stars of dots everywhere, billions of them that we call atoms. And then I went to one of those dots, and I looked in the middle of it, and sure enough, what was there? Another dot. And I was like, oh, it's dots all the way down. And I had this epiphany, you know, like, oh my God, maybe the universe, maybe the answer to the riddle is the exact contrary. The only thing that exists is a dot. The universe makes points of infinite division and assembles them at different scales and make everything we see. I was like looking at the people in the bus, and I could see they were made out of dots and smaller dots and smaller dots. They seemed to glow with a strange aura, and you know, at this moment. And you know, when you have these moments of epiphany, I'm sure many of you in this room had them. You know what you want to do next, right? You want to tell someone, right? And you all know how that goes, usually. You get the look like, did you take your medication this morning? And You know, so I ran home when I got out of the bus, and I waited for my mom to come back from work. And when she got home, I was like, Mom, I figured out something at school today. It's so awesome. And my mom was all excited. It's like, oh my God, he's actually enjoying school. Like, oh, maybe he had a good exam, you know, for the first time in his life. And I'm like, Mom, today I learned about dimension at school, and they're wrong. I just went over like a lead balloon. And it's like, Mom, you know, I think that it's the contrary, that like the only thing that exists is dots, and you're made out of dots, and a smaller one and smaller one, and so on. You get infinite amount of dots, Mom. And she looked at me, and she said, you know what? I just worked for 8 hours. I'm real tired. I don't feel infinite at all. And, you know, she had made a point, you know, pun intended. And it's like if everything is embedded into each other to infinity, is how you get boundary condition. How does things differentiate from each other? This has been a big problem. It's a chasm in our understanding. How does infinity and finite system interact? Typically, we think they don't. And that has shown up in our physics really strongly. So now we have a theory for like big stuff, Einstein field equations, that predicts continuums towards singularity, continuums towards infinity, and we have a theory for the small stuff, for the atoms and the subatomic particles we call quantum theory, and quantum theory predicts bounded linear finite states. So the two don't agree. And
all right, my apologies. I was on phone, but that was a pretty good part to it. But I need to add a crucial thing. It's that it's actually dots and holes, and that there's multiple dimensions, but we need to identify the dimensions that exist and that everything is based off of, and that they build much larger dimensions, and each larger dimension is exponentially larger in complexion and is built off of the initial structures of the smaller dimension that it is compiled of. And through this, we get the universal languages and codes, and that there's like first there is the binary code, right? And like ones and twos, but really it's actually dots and holes. And that there's an electron energy, or like a wave, and it's going on in physics, it's a one-dimensional vector, right? And then that's your x-axis. And to get a second dimension, you have now a y-axis, and you're building up dimensions that create larger dimensions of complexity and size that break down into smaller base ones. And this is how the fractal dimensions work in our existence, like the different geometries, fractals of mathematics and geometry. And that was what sacred geometry was sacred and used as and for. And it's how energy shapes and forms and structures and transfers throughout the inner and outer larger dimensions of the universe. And yeah, on that thoughts, I would like your thoughts on this, my friends.
A lot of dimensions and holes, man, after he said there's no dots at all. That's pretty bad to start with, isn't it?
Well, because he was comparing off of the what we're actually taught in school, which is even worse, right? And that there's actually three, because you have first the two, the dots and holes, but then you have the line between them, and it's like that's like the Holy Trinity, one of the many Holy Trinities. There's so many of them, but it's like there's also, it's like you've got, I guess, one's the positive, one's negative, and one's the neutral. And that's the other, like, three of our third dimension. And out of those...
So basically, are you telling me that there's a null zone in the center of something? Is that...
100%.
Okay, so that's what we're getting to here then.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting a little lost with the lines and the holes. So, and then you get a bigger dimension, you get a bigger hole, and then, yeah.
Well, okay,
it's better just to say there's a null zone.
Good call. And that actually connects to...
I mean, they wrote it all over anti-gravity papers with Carr. When you see the vortexes coming together and the two ends of the cones overlap each other, that's your null zone right there.
Yes,
now,
sir.
You want to tap the 0-point energy out of that, you got to open that up. You got to pull the energy out of that. There's nothing there until you open it.
And you have to tap it from the 90-degree intersections of the opposing dimensional vortexes.
Yeah, so tap them on and off. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, just like that. And then it starts to open the hole. So I told you in the center, it's like a plasmoid. It's pure energy. It's not AC, it's not DC, it's energy. It's something that we really don't talk a lot about, is what pure energy actually is. Well, that's it.
You are so bang on with that. And that we need to exactly discuss the difference between the three, and also creating identifying the fourth, that is the cold electrical current, and potentially engineering a fifth, or just engineering the cold current into modern electrical systems and appliances.
It's very easy. Just break the symmetry twice. That's it. All you have to do is rectify it twice. That's as simple as it gets, and it goes right into the cap. It uses regular energy, not a negative energy, not a cold energy. It's not Bedini's energy. It is normal everyday energy after that.
And specifically, what you've brought up a few times, and that's important, and that is part of Walter Russell's all of his diagrams and dimensional geometry drawings, is the vortex and the peaks and where they intersect, and tapping those points. And also,
null zone, it has the energy right there. He's showing it every time.
Right, and the right-hand rule. So all electric magnetism is based off of the right-hand rule, which is dots and holes. It's a dot in the center and a big old hole around it. And that right there is dimension number 1. And the holy trinity of dimension number 1 is you have the hole on the outside, the dot in the middle, and the line to it, right? And you got like right there, and that's like your electrical field. And then the next like exponential dimension up, holy trinity from that, is your 3 fields that are 3 holes that are 3 equal circles. That is then your magnetic field and your gravitational field, and they all exist in the same one dimension, which is a an infinite dimension between the center dot and the whole giant circle around it, and the line that is that one dimension of flow between the two, and the field that is between it, and that all three of these graphitic fields, the electric field, and the magnetic field are directly proportional in all their force and interaction between those three pieces, dimensions. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense based on what they're teaching you. Yeah.
And how they interact. Well, and then it's how you manipulate it. So,
I mean, look, the Earth doesn't work like that, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, you got to start understanding a little different. It's radiation. Where the field is not gravitational or whatever. It's radiation. It's the simplest form of energy on the Earth. We work on radiation. Our sky has a radiant field around it. As soon as the sun pushes against that radiant field, we get the radiation of that field pushing upon us. Okay? That's why it causes problems to the human body, because you're putting a hot radiant field right next to you. So what happened to the people that were studying Tesla coils and they didn't realize they were getting X-rayed at the same time because they ran the frequency too high? They suffered bouts of radiation damage to their body. It's the fundamental field you have to see. There's always an opposite to the field, so you'll have a positive and negative, but that's the field you need to look into. That's why I say when you get into volts and amps and they start quantifying this stuff, if you don't quantify the radiant field, you failed in a magnetic understanding, right? There is no radiant field. There is no calculation for it. That's the problem with physics. They all put it on a magnetic field. Well, what's the opposite of the magnetic field? It's the radiant field. It's the radiation. They should have learned that with the atom bomb. And instead, they just build little electrons and keep going. And they went right past what it was. You literally close that thing and you get a massive dose of radiation everywhere. That's the field. So when you say, okay, I need an electric magnetic and now I need another field and create gravity, not gravitational, it's radiant. It's literally the radiation. So we see it in our Van Allen belt. What is it doing? It's capturing radiation in a belt. It's telling you it's time dilation too, by the way. So when you go out in space, you're dilating time differently.
Radiation energy includes time within it.
Well, it's the difference between your hot energy field and your cold energy field. It's what creates the time dilation. It's what creates that plasma field. That interaction is how much you're creating the distance between the two. You're literally working on the Planck scale while working on the world scale at the same time. The field on the outside has to be built the same on the inside on the Planck scale. That's how you get time dilation. So you can also talk about the compression of those fields.
Okay, so field compression is directly tied or affected by time, right? Field compression, time dilation, or no?
The amount of energy you put from one to the next with the temperature differential between the two creates the time dilation in which direction you're going.
Oh my God, what you just said is so crucial to the three and how they interact. Yeah, okay.
There's a heavy side component in the capacitor. It's the leaky capacitor. which you have to be able to build in order to get the fields to come out in the static electricity and the radiant energy inside of a coil in order to create those fields, in order to pin that plasma field down. Time dilation is not difficult. Okay, you can do it with rotating disks. It's not something that you have to have super high frequency on. As a matter of fact, the Earth does it on low frequency. It's the understanding of the fields themselves is what you got to understand. How are they interacting? What's that? What's going on there? Why are they interacting that way? And it's not until you realize that the static electricity is your magnetic field. Your radiant field is your radiation. We now should be able to put the puzzle together. The two hitting each other at different temperatures creates a plasma. You just have to look at the Earth and the solar system around the Earth, right? Just look out there. It's cold out there. It's hot in here. There's a field in between us. It's a plasma field. It is literally like standing in your room on a cold winter's day while your house is hot and opening the window. That's what you're doing. You're allowing it to flow. That's why it feels colder on the coil. It's not because you want to freeze the coil. It's the environment pulling the amount of energy through it at such a rapid rate with zero heat and losses that creates the energy that goes higher, that creates a room temperature superconductor instead of turning it into a fireball.
Yes. Okay. What you just said is the difference in ionized gas, which is plasma state, between flame and stable cold plasma, hot plasma, neutral plasma, and cold plasma states. Those are, yes.
You're pinning fields in, Bernie. Listen, when you constantly put energy into something, right? But it can't dissipate because you have no heat. You have no dissipation method. It cannot leave it. So it continues to build. As it continues to build, it builds in the swirl that goes around it. It will continue to hold in more and more and more of it because it can't dissipate it. See, the heat itself in the hot system we use is burning off our energy. It's taking 30 to 40% off the top right away. It ruins any cold energy circuit to create over unity because it's heat. So what do? You have to create a neutral environment and then allow that energy itself to pull down the temperature in the room. Then you have something. That's the only way to do a room temperature superconductor without using different materials to do it. Just basic, all you need is copper wire with a coating, and you have to have the correct geometry.
Yes, and what you're describing is like so freaking crucial. What I've been thinking in my mind, and the exact nano coating between the three differentials. Your neutral copper wire is the black nano coating layer of copper that you are able to produce the three normal ways, whether it's electrolysis, whether it's using lye, the caustic method, or by plasma flame, the blue flame, where you just coat the outer layer, but you get it just to that black layer. And what that does is it breaks down the bonds between the solid metal state and the outer shell of these nano single bonds that are left. And that's the standard Keshi plasma nano coating of copper nano coating. And then the two differentials, the negative and the positive, your positive copper coil or circuit, you actually get the hydride coating of the metal on it, the red state of it, and on the negative side you get the oxide, the blue coating on it. And between the neutral black, the positive hydroxide, and then the negative oxide, the plasma fields of those three, that's where you have the symmetry and the major energy interactions and potential of all of the fields, and that's the basis of all of Keshe's technology.
So you're basically putting a coating on the outside of the wire itself, right? And
Yeah.
building in a structure.
Yeah.
And based on the structure that you're putting in there, you say it's carbon. So you have a hexagon structure that goes into it in between each wire or layers that you put into it, right?
Yeah. Well, he just teaches the carbon one, and then I'm proposing that. Well, actually, no. On his 3 coils, he says, yeah, the one's the white or black one, and then the other 2 are the red and the blue, the oxide and the hydride ones, and that it's those 2 differences. It's like that's in electrolysis, your anode and your cathode, the metals will produce from the breakdown of water and oxygen going on one and hydrogen going on the other. So that's like when you're coating your metals from the air and the plasma fields and the circuits, that you have the 3 fields, and that when you're coating the outside of all of your metals with these extra nano layering, that you're creating and amplifying those 3 plasma fields in your electrical or circuitries, field circuitry.
Okay. So, and you're supposed to pick up energy from this?
Oh, yes, huge amounts, and transmit them. It's the interaction of actual plasma fields.
Interesting. So have you ever made a battery like this?
So I've done a lot of it. I've actually advanced a lot of it in different ways, but I've never actually fully connected his plasma circuit because, well, it's like, I don't know. All the testimonies I was reading, all the videos I was watching, it all worked really good. But when you get to the fucking plasma field, the majority of them couldn't handle the conscious connection that they got from like the plasma intelligence thing. It was kind of strange.
Is there water in it?
What?
Is there water in it?
It creates such a big plasma field. There's like a blue glowing field in like a big area of space once the 3 coils are in resonance in the plasma field going, and it's like then you can add to the coil fields the nano layering like your own nano field material, like through the electrolysis production. It's like you drop drop of your blood into the electrolysis reaction with the monoatomics or the nanos that you're making, and the nano coating layer that you can add into the field, so that when you coat your entire coils that are already nano coated into this plasma amplifying huge field with because you have a solenoid coil within a solenoid coil within a solenoid coil that are all 3 coated in these plasma fields that are amplifying the plasma field within the plasma field within the plasma field of the electrical fields of like, and then when you drop the blood into the water, all of a sudden on the cathode side, always on the atomic hydrogen, it's just white flake, nano flake always appears, and from that point, it's like while the reaction's going on, it just keeps making and reproducing your nano like structure, your amino acid or whatever, but it's like reproducing it on a bond with monoatomic of that element. So it's like if you're producing monatomic gold and monatomic silver, but if you're doing the coil and it's copper, so you want it with copper, that you're bonding your amino acid to. So then when you make that giant plasma field, it's also creating that plasma field in your specific biological human plasma resonant field. So it literally has you on the real plasma field to cellular field interaction level. And that, from what I've observed and seen, like the real plasma field like grid is like a conscious connected grid. So if you don't have conscious control of yourself and how other conscious like input comes in, you can go very insane very quickly. And if like you're a tormented soul that's like not consciously aware and already struggling with like other demons trying to come into you, they can very quickly spiral out of control and have other outside influences, taking over.
You see the dark ghosts.
Well, others see the dark ghost come out because you've lost control, sort of thing. And it's like, at the time, I definitely wasn't in enough mental state. I think I am now, and it's time to start experimenting with it. But a key part that, see, all of this, like there was so much of it, like 3 years into the whole Akeshi field and plasma teachings and like open workshops. And it's like I was big into it weekly, every single week, doing it, the steps, learning and seeing like all the others that like truly got everything right. And it's like after a couple of years, a lot of they demonstrate everything once on the video, like the 5-hour videos that are up from every week. But it's like that was it. After that point, it goes into the work group videos that are all like private within the group and like just stay within the collective of that technology thing, but you never ever see it again. And like it's talked about, and like they're trying to develop it publicly for anyone that like is still out there and asks stuff, and they're quite advanced on it, but it's like the West doesn't really understand it or see everything happen. But point being, as it went on, and it's like as people started building the coils and the coil fields and getting their own like nano plasma onto it, a lot of them claimed that they didn't have to eat really anymore, or like a lot less sleep when they were in these fields, because the fields would actually charge them and stuff. And it was quite interesting. And that it's like, but you would take like an orange, like the orange, and this is literal alchemy, like, because you take the oils, the essence of an orange, of like a banana and whatnot, and you'd break it down into the nanomaterial, and then you'd also coat that or put that in some water, and then like put that in between the coil for a bit, let the water charge, and then you'd coat the coil on that. And it's like, I guess that's like, it adds to your field, and you get like the energy of the apple, the orange, and the banana and stuff. Like it was great. Like there was all sorts of like guys that were doing, but then like what? So this is the first time I've ever talked about this shit publicly or to anyone like since this shit happened. Like, and it's like flat. Like there's some crazy stuff that went down, and it's like you don't really know what to make, like, but it's like, so there's like 5 different groups that really had breakthroughs in there, and like one of them was definitely a straight up like British American like commando special op like nerd group of like 3 dudes that were like on Zoom connected that were like military scientists that like
Okay.
and then and I was part of that group for a while, and they advanced their design into something they were claiming and saying like was taking them through like it seemed like from like the 4 different like 4-hour like Zoom things I had done with them and like how they were designing the technology, what I was like recommending with them and sharing from like my own results and whatnot, and what they like had like were sharing with me and stuff. It was like they had designed this triple coil plasma field system with like a gold, a copper, and I think it was iron. Yeah, so it's iron as the center wire. And that's because it's your magnetic or your ferrite, your ground, essentially. And that's also why Bob Greenier says in the bagel coil, the very first wire you want it to be, he says iron and stuff. And this is why. And it's the one that goes like straight. And I've been like figuring this out and thinking it for a while. And that's the ground charge that goes, and it's like the magnetic, and then the next wire that's round around that, like that's your smaller one that is the electron it's the first spin, and it's right hand rule spin, and that's creating your electromagnetic field or your electric field. And then the next wire is a bigger is gold. Do you want the gold as your second larger I guess the electromagnetic field? Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so the third one is that electroplasma field. And by doing the same process of the nano coating each of those 3 wires, of you breaking them down, that outer shell, and having that carbon on like, so the carbon black coating goes on the electrical coil system that is connected into your like Slayer circuit or like the grid electronic sort of thing, and that is separate from the circuits that you do that are ringing or like in harmonic resonance or in the plasmatic energies. And that sorry, because I'm connecting and trying to explain how advanced and how the Keshe Magrav system works, and how also his plasma system of fields work, which is like identical to everything you say, do, and show, as well as Gerald and like anyone else that truly is starting to understand plasma fields and the whole science of it and engineering of it. And it's like, it blows my mind because it's like everything Keshe like taught scientifically is like this plasma model of fields, and it's like exactly what all you guys are getting, showing, and understanding and teaching. And then it's like, I don't know. There's a lot to take. There's a lot of crazy stuff. And anyways, back to the freaking different groups that I experienced. And then like they literally turned into breakaway like civilization stuff where like it was just like the Black Ops dudes, like they last I heard of them, they're like, oh, we got the portal thing, and then they're like, oh, we're gone. And I was like, holy fuck. And like the GANs that they were making, no one had figured out the blood yet, and I'm the one that's like worked with blood, and it's quite crazy, and like I've continued it on, and it's like haven't really, because they were doing the field things, but it's like when you're actually doing the electrolysis and the monatomics and like the live plasma, because it's charged plasma, like it grows and it scares the shit out of me because of like all the homunculus like alchemy stuff, and it's like, oh god. But like the right salt water, so yeah, that's the Alchemist. Sorry, I'm just understanding things like for the first time in my own mind. But
going into the woo in your own head, huh?
No, well, breaking down the woo into real science as like processing these different three like aspects of plasma and the types of plasma and like ions, like ionized states of like matter particles, right? Like that in charged water is an ionic state that is not hot. So that is a superconductive state in ionic water. And you also have the crystal solid state interactions between matter in this solution and in this engineering, chemical, electric heat as well, exchange, breakdowns and interactions. And when you truly understand that, over unity will like soon become a thing of the past, because it's just gonna be like, you're gonna be like, holy fuck, like, well, humanity, like, it's just anyone that argues or isn't using it will just be left to the past, because once it's cold. I'm trying to understand the true potential of, because it's like not like a nuclear fusion, it's not a radiation fusion, but it's an energy exchange fusion of between matter and energy and potential and engineering that we have not connected to the electrical side. But as soon as it is
it the connection or the breaking?
Both.
Is it the breaking apart or the connection?
It's all three. It's all three. It's the breaking, the connecting, but also the phase exchange, like the state of matter phase change aspect. Like it's the construction, breakdown, and reassembling aspects. All of it. It's the mechanics.
When you start breaking things apart, like the water.
Yeah, that's one half of it. And the other half is putting it back.
Where the energy comes from.
Exactly, of course, 100%.
Yeah,
so it's like, yeah, because on your anode and your cathode, it's like you're breaking everything down on one side and putting it back together kind of on the other, and the flow of everything in between. And then the engineering aspects and utilization is all the little systems that you design and utilize and block and put in between those two exit points, and then take out and tap into and use everywhere. And these other systems that you can form and use with it, and that I've been designing, such as like the hydrogen fuel, the oxygen, and also just charge, and then chemical, nano chemical material making processes and breakdowns and putting back together, like the material science of it. And like it's thing that's wild, because it's the plasma nano coating, right? It's the nano coating that you were just talking into that creates the field. And I guess I should actually ask you a bit more on that to tie this all together here, and your understanding of it, and a bit more of mine, because
Carbon has a good K value, right? But graphene has a much higher K value. Now we can start building a little bit of capacitors. You want to look into Pt2 Brown's capacitors? You want to start creating something that drives a static field through the roof? Layer them. You got to remember in with the Bedini series that he did, he had that Chinese lady, I can't remember her name. And all she told you about was a mesh. Okay? The mesh structure was creating the energy. It was producing more energy because of the way it meshed. Well, now take graphene and mesh it one over the other as you're creating your fields and layer it. Now you're going to get a higher value. That's why I keep telling you guys, and I don't think you understand quite yet, that's why paper has a better value to it. It turns from a non-conductor into a semiconductor in a static field. Well, that's because of the mesh and the way the mesh works out and the air in between. Because once you have the mesh, now you created a field where it holds the energy on the inside of whatever you created. Well, now take that into capacitor plates for Pt2 Brown. Now you can start to understand the amount of static electricity he's producing when he basically just use a Tesla coil down the center to create the radiant field. He's creating a massively charged static field in there. It's that simple. That's all he did. He understood the correct way to build each layer to do it because he understood the mesh. That lady told you the same thing. Most people missed it. They just thought, oh, man, she's putting the coating of an airplane and created charged mesh. Oh, man, we're going a little faster. Well, yeah, who gives a you-know-what? It's creating massive charges.
I thank you, Nathan. Right there, I'm pretty sure is where I am going to file my first patents and develop technology, a very useful equipment. But that's not going to happen tomorrow. But anyways, we will talk. No, continue on with what you're saying. Actually, I should not interrupt you because what you're just explaining is huge implications. Please.
Well, think of it this way. There's charge fields on the negative end, but you can change them positive. You just have to field flip it. It's really not that difficult. So I'll give you the example of my gravity flare, right? So we have a rotating disc on the top that's positive, one on the bottom is negative. We all know that. We have a center plate that's neutral, right? But what you probably don't realize off the bat is the top of that plate in the center is positively charged. The bottom of that plate is negatively charged. Your negative is always on the bottom. Okay, all that bottom wire does is it goes to a DC flyback transformer, which basically means the core that's wrapped around it goes to your negative side. Then the mylar and the clear plastic that's wrapped around it goes to your diodes, which is the way it builds out with the clear plastic wrapped with a little piece of mylar on it. It's a one-way diode, okay? And it'll actually go to the top, which gives you your high voltage, right? So you get a high voltage, you get a very low voltage and a magnetic field on the bottom. So you know your bottom's negative. Now, as I take that piezo disc, which is up above it, and all I'm going to do is pulse it. What does that piezo do? It goes in between the two and just moves the center plate. Now, I'm going to create capacitance between my upper plate and my lower plate and the center plate. Now, as I move it, I'm going to flex the capacitance and build more charge into it until I get to a rate where it has a monster number attached to it. You see, that's where all your energy comes in. The fact that it's on the ground helps you pull the negative through the circuit, through the Tesla coil, in order to make that field higher. The interaction between the Tesla coil and the high voltage field right there picks up the energy. The resonance between the two plates are in a third of each other. So what happens in order to get this thing to create that monster capacitor in the center? As you resonate these things together, you tap the center, brings you in between a fourth, to a third, to a half. Now that eddy is kicking in a whole lot more on the top one. We almost get 1-to-1, but we don't. We get 1-to-2. And now you have a more energy being picked up by the resonance itself into that capacitance field. The only way to kill it is to spark it. And once you spark it, that whole capacitor is blown. It's done. So you have to make sure everything is coated really well on both plates, and all this, the outside ring has to be coated really well. Then you can bump that whole thing, and boom, you get that pulse wave out of it, that monster pulse wave, which will take the bottom field from negative and now flip it into positive and drive the craft up. That's how that capacitor turns into a directional field. It took all the energy from the bottom as well as the top and converted it to go one way. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. That's capacitance. That's understanding why you put two things so close together. You know what I mean? I know they got a bunch of different effects to it, but that's really all it is. I mean,
but it's the crucial part of what it is, and that it's engineering that in a few different manners, and then like multiplying it thousands of times over through like the little small aspects of it, and then you get huge amounts of energy, and like that's all usable and into these systems. Like it's, sorry, I've just got so many things going on in my head all at once because it's like.
So let me tell you why it pops off the ground. So if you pop the capacitor too early without building the alpha field properly, it hops. And it turns over on its side. Okay? It's the expansion and contraction that creates the buoyancy. It expands, it contracts. It expands, it contracts. That's all that thing is. It's buoyancy. It's understanding the capacitor the right way in order to lift it. That's literally it, man. Like I told you, that bubble does not follow the fundamental nature of gravity. It doesn't.
Okay.
Sorry. Like a hot air balloon, just put hot air in it and it goes up. I mean, you're having a capacitor discharge, which means you have momentary heat in there in abundance. It goes away. You're literally popping a capacitor in there inside of a bubble field. I know people look at this thing and they don't understand it at all because they don't work on it. So they're just looking at the wrong things. Why would you use Alnico magnets versus regular magnets or neodymiums? Because they're aluminum. When you start resonating aluminum on disk, guess what happens? You get more energy into it. If I want more energy into my magnets, I need them to be built out of aluminum.
Sorry,
I don't care about the gouts. The gouts don't mean.
I gotta add to this, and like a moment ago, when I'm like, I got so many things in my head. It's because like I had this aha moment of like now understanding fields and like electrical, like the specific electrical field or specific like magnetic field that is, like actually specific to current electromagnetic engineering or electrical engineering compared to the overall atomic field on field interactions and matter interactions, and thus also like gravity fields and everything else are like so exponentially different than what like the current like best minds even begin to grasp at, and then what like is even predicted, it's like nothing at all, and how matter, energy, space, all and time all like move and interact with each other. It's wild. It's bubble. It's a lot of bubble.
You're just creating the ability to make the vortex pull it in.
The vortex. That's
it. You're not creating or destroying energy, Bernie.
Okay, but you're back to dots and holes, brother. The dot is what creates the vortex that goes to, and sorry, the hole is what pulls in, right? So the hole is the inverse one out, and then the dot is the one too. It's your right hand. It's the right hand rule, and it's the outer to the inner, the orbit in.
But you have to have a left hand rule as well.
Of course, that's the opposite.
We gotta remember everything's a yin and a yang. Everything has its opposite. You just have to find out what it is.
Yeah, but it's okay. But the left-hand rule is when we get to the fourth dimension, and that's a whole other thing. We're just getting to the three of the gravity, the magnetic, and the electric.
You know what? You guys use a lot of fancy words to come up with such a simple project.
I'm saying like, Holy Trinity. It's the three.
Dude, it's like 500 words, and I did it in less than a paragraph. You know what I mean?
Yes, you did. Yeah, actually, you did, and you do. So we need you to do it one last more time right now to sum it all up so I can clip it and republish it, because like for those that will actually understand what you are truly saying and explaining, please do. Like what we discussed at the beginning and have gone through all right now. My word salad gonna end. Break it down, please.
Well, let's just do it this way. I'll build you a geometry coil and tell you exactly how it works. And it'll incorporate quite a bit of this, okay? So if I want to build a geometry coil, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it and say, I want a geometry structure in the center. Now, how I want to create that? I want to create it 180 degrees out of phase, which means I want two coils, not just one. So I'm going to wind one as soon as I wind the other. Now, there's always different techniques on how to do this. I'll just tell you the basics of what we're doing here. Now, every time two lines go like this, they come across, there are two wires, they create a scalar field in between them. Every time they turn one more time, they create another field. Every time they do it again, they create another one. Again, it's scalar. It builds out in levels, just like the Earth. Builds out in temperature. Now, when you create multiple scalar fields in together, you have friction. Every time you have friction, you have static electricity. The static electricity builds in between the scalar fields. Now, you have held in static electricity in that field. The heavy side component is basic. It's a leaky capacitor. It allows the top and the bottom of that stack you just created in about 1,500 to 2,000 layers to come up this high. Now you've got the leaky capacitor. It's going to be able to build out and come back in, build out and come back in. Now, it cannot stop building it because you haven't let off the gas. You continue to put energy into it, so it's now building it without a release because you're not using hot energy. The center of a coil itself is cold. It's room temperature and below. Now, the outside of it, of the field, is more of a magnetic. It has a magnetic value, so it has a little bit of heat. Now, because it has a little bit of heat, it's a temperature differential. Now it comes out, goes around, holds to the heat, just like a magnetic, and then comes back in. Now you have a temperature differential creating this thing. The more that you can put inside of an environment, a room, a craft, anything that you want to, and you can hold it in with a grounding. So your room, put it to the ground in the room. If you're in a UFO type structure, put it to the grounding of the UFO. Now it cannot escape all that. The energy now builds and builds and builds. You have created something that will gain capacitance and energy without losing it because you have no heat. You have the heat on the outside, but it's only a draw. There's not enough of it to make the system inefficient. Now you're building more energy. Because you're doing that and the inside's radiant and you're also creating static electricity, you create an outside field. That outside field is your anti-gravity field. It's your bubble. Now, the inside field is built on the Planck scale. The outside field is built on the Earth scale. Now you can start to understand what we're doing here. You're now creating a bubble. the energy in that bubble, when it reaches a certain capacitance, has the availability to now pop that capacitor. Now you can start putting in basically a pulse to it, and then you can pop it. Pulse it, pop it, bring it back, pop it, bring it back, buoyancy, just like that. It's as simple as that. But when you create this thing the right way, you get the Salpayas effect. You get static electricity on the outside of the radiant field. You get a plasma in the center of it. And what do you get? Well, if you built it in a hexagon pattern, you get hexagons all around this thing that actually makes a ball. It builds out. It's just like crystal does. Crystal builds in a radiant field or a radiation field the exact same way. You have to use the lessons of the earth that is teaching you in order to build this. You want time dilation in this thing? It's not hard. You're creating the two fields that hold in the time dilation right there. Those two fields, running them depending on which way you're running the vortex up and down first, okay, is depending on which way you're going to go in your time dilation field. You could speed it up. You could slow it down. You could run it super fast by putting more energy in there in one direction, or you could just keep it neutral. It really depends on you. So when it comes down to it, all this stuff is very simple. You can create 0-point energy, time dilation, and you can make an anti-gravity field bubble, all in one device.
Yeah, it's definitely true, and I believe there's more than a few that have all designed different ways and done it, and you know that there's many like you that are well on their way, and that so what everything you've described and everything I've described, just to like sum up, like because we're gonna have to do like a 5-part series with everything I experienced and saw, and like a breakdown of the Keshi stuff. But a key part was like the whole crystal woo and like plasma conscious woo, and that what I actually read, and I only read this post once, and it was by the last of the 6 groups that were like the real different groups that like. It was like right when Zoom had come out. It was right when Keshi had come out. And like I made it onto these 6 different groups that actually got the system working. And like I saw it, and it's like they had legit free energy. They had fucking glowing fucking blue plasma fields all around their houses. And they were all like eating off of it, not having to sleep. And like a couple of them were like government things that like disappeared to the fucking dark side, like in the holes, and like one claimed like literally the one that was like just some dude that really figured it out, and I think he was from Asia, and like he taught a whole bunch of us. Like he made this one series of like a way more advanced and simple one, and like the videos got like deleted the next day. And like, there's a couple out there that I've like recently found that like just have like a couple hundred views that I've been meaning to like do a whole try to make the system and stuff. But like, literally, it was like I had watched him like be like on the run because government was coming after him because like he had done like the breakthrough was too crazy, and then like he had made there was rumors. He was last seen on the dark, like passing the moon. And then it was like, apparently he made contact with like the one hippie group that had kind of like, was also like getting it. And like, that, anyways, apparently was past the moon, like was on, I don't know, made a moon ship or something. And then I totally forgot what I was going to say. And it was the hippie group. I think who did I originally read? Oh yeah, hippie group. And that this chick had made this post once, and it was the last post I ever saw her make. And then she got expunged from the internet too. Like each one of these groups, like they got expunged, like just nothing ever seen of it since. And like, it was crazy, and like, make of it what you will. I don't know, but she made the post that you put a crystal in the solenoid that then connects to your freaking actual power sources out before going into. And so this is like the standards. Actually, sorry, this is not standard. I made the geometry is different. They're all supposed to be the same, of like 81 and 144 wraps per. And it's coil within coil within coil, and they were nano coated, but this is rather old, so the nano coating is broken down a lot. Need to do a new coating, but so you have the 6 coils and the field within the field within the field, and they're all wired to the fields. It's not your standard wiring whatsoever, and there's 3 different flows.
And this whole thing goes in water?
That's what I've been doing, which is completely different than what they were doing, and where I've advanced all sorts of different ways. But the whole point was when you put the crystal in, before connecting it to actual power source that powered the freaking thing. Oh, I forgot. The water and the monoatomics are actually in the centers, and so you have it stacked, and you have one type of monoatomic in this one in water, one type of monoatomic in this one in water, one type of monoatomic in this one in water. And then these are connected to a bunch of different capacitors, another circuit, and like one end to the grid and one to where you're using your electricity. And then when you'd add some more stuff, these things would like generate a giant blue field if they done right with ones that I saw. Oh, there was one group in Vancouver that was doing it. Once they made the space coils, they had a freaking blue. I watched 2 of their live demos. One when they first set it off in the park, and the whole park fucking had a giant blue glowing plasma field. And then the one time she did it around his house when he had this thing set up and running for a week and really got it going, and like a blue glow was around his house. And then like they posted like the RCMP were coming, and never saw what happened to that guy. Anyways, there's some crazy. Then all right. I guess I'm giving all of the crazy ones
disappearing. Yeah.
And then the last one was a group in Texas, and they got the blue glowing thing around their workshop. And it was like once they had this thing set up and going, it was like they had the electric field beeper, and it was like first it was just like a couple feet, and then like as it got going, it was like they had the ladder, and it was like through the stairs, and then it was like on the roof, and it was just crazy how far it was going. And then they had the blue glowing freaking field around the place, and then don't know what happened. I think that so 2 or 3 of those groups actually like became part of like the private Keshi thing, and like it was all private within the groups. And then it was like the 3 others that were like separate government or just like random people. Well, the one guy apparently was on the moon or past the moon or whatever the hell. There's other dudes that were like, I'm not going to get all into it tonight because this is freaking too wild.
Can I say something to you, BurnEye?
Yeah.
Just so you understand this. If you take the Tesla coil outside and you run the rod down the center of it, and it's a cold morning, run your finger along that wire that comes from that rod, and it creates blue plasma. Now, it's important that you know that, because putting the crystal inside of the magnetic field is pinching it all to the center of that crystal, which should create your blue plasma. Every time that you're putting the coils on the outside and the source or what you want to it on the inside, you're forcing the energy into a negative state. Now, Tesla made X-rays that were not harmful using the negative state of radiant energy in order to do it, not the positive like we use today. So it's a non-destructive energy. That's why they can sit in the room while it's blue and glowing and not be hurt. But if you try to create that in a positive energy field, you're absolutely going to hurt.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense there. And that's the difference. I can make the difference between the 2 and the 2 fields. The cold is your ultraviolet, the low end of the spectrum where you're going smaller. The hot is infrared, and that's the other end of our visible spectrum, and that's the energy going the other way, right? And
That's why you call it hot and cold, isn't it?
Yes, sir. And it's just compression, decompression of energy to matter and matter to energy back and forth and through space-time.
Hey, you know it's a fun one. Let's tell you, I know you're probably getting towards the end of this, but Bob Boyce, if you ever watch it, Structured Water, the energy smacker that he creates is basically a Tesla with a rod down the center, and then he puts it into the water, and it structures the water. One of the coolest things that he talks about is he takes that structured water, puts it in the fridge next to a glass of orange juice, and then as it sits there, it has a vortex pulled to it. So it's going to take that flavor from the orange juice and transmit it right into the water, and you're going to get the flavor of it.
So literally had like 5 different people that did like the Keshi stuff that went into that aspect of the fields and food stuff, and all claimed to have that exact same result when they were doing that. Their method, the Keshi method of it, was like pretty exact similar to what you described there of how they're actually like the structured water. It's how you structure the water, but it's just structuring. The difference between the two is the method of structuring water. It structures that actual water, and you literally get the smell and the taste of the orange field from the water field because you structured it in, and like the aroma of orange off of this water that is actually never physically touched an orange. It's crazy, and it's like it would get
okay. So let me ask you this then: if I wanted to turn water into wine, what would be my first thing I would look at?
The field,
energy smacker field that they're creating in order to turn the water into wine. They never said if the color changed. He just says it basically tastes like wine and is like wine. How do you get it? Just like that.
So I just want to put those up again because it's like these are some very basic but essentials of there's the right hand rule, but like you said, the left hand rule, and it's the compression, decompression, back and forth. And this is Walter Russell's, and it's just one of the many, many different dimensional geometric fields.
It's a spring. It's a spring, Bernie. Longitudinal wave is a spring. It's put it straight up in the air, and you'll see it as a spring. It's multiple springs. It's just bing, 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 bing.
Exactly. So that it's what it is, and then what's so fascinating and why it's so relevant to me, and what I've been describing is because as I watched the Keshi development of the coils and the fields, it's like there would be the center wire. And then for the space field ones, it was like you'd make like 100 or so, I think 82 of exactly this, like that, around the center big field coil that is like the larger coil field. And then around these, you'd have a secondary coil also going with around back and forth and back and forth. And that you'd have arrays of coils like that, and then you'd have them nano-coated, and then there was like 3 of those fields within them. So it's like it got so complex and wild. But yes, they started to glow, and they like it was pretty wild. Anyways,
are they different? Are they both copper, or are they different material?
So yes and no. First, they did with just copper, right? And that's one thing. But no, that's a key part of the difference between the inner one, the outer one, and the middle one. And like I was saying, it's like you want.
Okay, so hold on. So the gold has no ohms in a coil.
Yeah.
There's no resistance. But if you take a copper field and a, say, aluminum field, now you have a battery. 2 copper fields.
Exactly. Okay, you just broke it down exactly to what is the best. That is the ultimate one, and it's just which field is which and how much gold you can afford, and that those are the 3 differentials, and that you want the highest differential between the 2 and the middle one, and that's batteries, that's everything. It's electric, it's like it's the basics of all energy exchange and field exchange, and yes, that's exactly it. And
There's your positive, negative, and neutral you were looking for.
And what you just described would be the 3 metals I would make my coil system out of when I can afford to do so with that much gold. And it's exactly that.
Pretty interesting. That's all this stuff kind of works together in the same way.
Exactly. And it's field and plasma, like forces, interactions, and pressure differentials.
But just remember, you're doing a cold plasma, so it's a little different. It's not harmful as a hot plasma would be. You can't put your finger next to hot plasma. It just burns everything down. There's too much heat.
Okay. That's radiation energy fields relevance, and a little bit of my misunderstanding and why I kept thinking earlier I was talking about how like the big field of the terahertz, but no, that's okay. So that is the hot radiation one that you don't need. So you just don't.
Hold on. Terahertz is fine. That's a high frequency, so you have a high voltage and you have a low amperage.
No. I'm talking about though that you have in the giant plasma fields, because then it will like destroy you, not just your plasma field, but your physical thing, because it's so hard. But that
would be a very low frequency, and it would suck to be in that field.
Yes,
a very high amperage field.
Anyways, I'm not going to go further into trying to explain what I'm trying to make sense of in my head right now, but just what you were explaining affected it a lot. And please come back to what you were saying about that. The radiation, or the hot plasma field. It's like, as long as you don't, so the hot plasma field, as long as that is not, ringing on the same as time that you have your human, like, plasma field amplified at the field level and those interactions, if that makes sense. But, like, that's...
Well, I keep asking
technology is nothing like that right now. It's just something...
Keep asking you about water for a reason. Okay, now go with me here with the little cymatics, right? Put a speaker underneath a tin of water. Makes a frequency into it.
Okay.
It's in water that it makes that frequency. Your body is 70% water. You got to speak to things on their own level. I mean... There's no other way to say that. That's why I keep asking you if you're putting the coil in water or not, because it's a conduit.
Oh, yes. And so when I say no, it's just for the specific engineering aspects of what I was asking. But now that you've explained what you've explained, I will never need to think about that sort of thing again, because everything that I'm making is in water. And that, therefore, it's like that is the base, and then it's like it's good, and it has nothing like okay. So it's like and yes.
That's why they have the fundamental states: the water, the earth, the heat, all that stuff. When they do those little things, it's not just a guy sitting there. You know what I mean? They tell you different states of things for a reason, because if I told you to put the water there, you get one look out of it, right? But then if I told you to take a flat plate and put it over the speaker and put salt on it, it'd be a completely different look, right? But that's the way that it builds out in the different states between the earth and between the water state. The fire state would be, a different frequency look altogether. Now, you put them all together, you get a mandala. You get what they're trying to tell you there, that there's different states of the energy, different way it builds out, and there's a wiring pattern in every mandala. Every time that you see the angels on the outside, just count them out. That's the amount of pins that you put for your coil. Now all you have to do is take the circles in the center that they create and play stay away from the center. So you cannot cross the line for that one that you're in, and you'll build out a geometry coil. It's that simple, and you'll get those frequency patterns out of it. There's a lot more to geometry than they think it is, man.
Right? There's so much, and you get one beautiful kaleidoscope of it, and I'm looking at it from a whole other beautiful kaleidoscope of it, and
That's
it's
right.
us engineering these things together that it's gonna rebuild.
It all builds on the whole thing together, Bernie. You can't do it without the other. It's
exactly
every field has to be brought into it.
And it's that the ancients got it and understood it and developed it or used it on a massive level that we just don't even fully comprehend yet.
Everything works on. It's like taking a safe, and every combination that you put into that safe is going to unlock certain things. That's how fundamental frequency works. How many points do you have to hit, and in which order? That's it. It's a safe lock. Once you get it, you can control anything you want.
So, in my mind, the big thing that I've been I gotta recollect this thought. It's the engineering between what connecting the digital electronic technology and systems and microsystems that we have today into both the cold electrical engineering system side and technology, as well as the plasma side. And it's there are three completely different there's three sides of the energy electrical component engineering that are the exact same, and then each one has something that's completely different. Probably not going to make a lot of sense to people right now, but anyways, please. Any last words? I guess we're getting 3 hours. It's 1:30. I got to get to bed soon because I work in the morning. This was fun. We got to do it again. And what do you got on the go tomorrow? And the rest of the year, you were saying you have a few shows.
Yeah, tomorrow we got some pre-tape stuff going to go on. I'm gonna meet with some people who want to be on the show, and we'll talk to them and see how that goes. And then we also have Liz. She's going to come in and she's going to talk about us with Atlantis. And she had a previous life in Atlantis that she said lasted 15,000 years. So we're going to go with her and see exactly where, vibrational frequency. She talks about it a lot and how it was used in their technology. So we're going to go right down that road with her. We're going to find out how they lived and the way they thought about things, so we can understand why the society either collapsed or succeeded in certain ways, or if they're in Middle Earth, or are they, roaming around with us. So I find it absolutely fascinating to go down that road.
Me too, brother. So what time is that? I'm going to have to try to tune in and watch the premiere.
Well, that one, we're going to pre-tape that one, and then it's going to air.
Filming tomorrow. So
yeah.
be okay. I look forward to what. Well, it's good. I don't have to worry about it. I can focus on work tomorrow, and I look forward to watching it when it's premiered. And anything you're saying this Thursday or Friday, you're doing some stuff.
Yeah, then we have Sean on Wednesday, and then we're going to see how the rest of the week pans out. And there's a couple people, like I said, want to come on, and if they want to show their stuff, they're always welcome to. And we'll just take the courtesy and let them present everything they got, man. And I think it's great open for builders out there who want to come in and show stuff, man. And they all have been winners, man. Every single one of them to come in. We just had Inventor 3 in, and he was talking John Hutchinson and some of the stuff that was going on there, man. I was just like a trip down memory lane, man. John even commented on it and said, he missed talking to Inventor 3, which is the machinist that John used to go to make everything. So that was pretty cool. We also had Nick on, man, who's doing the Corona motor. So we were talking energy in the sky, energy in the ground. So
I'm gonna need to watch that and maybe even jump in at the end to ask a couple questions if possible.
Yeah, and then I'm hoping, we can put a couple of the guys together and work on it, man. So some of the stuff, they need to just be connected. And, if that's what I can do for them, that's what I'll do. And then they can just, hash it out while I'm sitting there in the background smiling because they got all the information. So That's what's going on, man.
That's amazing. That's what I'm all about. That's what I try to do. And as do you. And I'm glad to see it continuing. So, awesome, my friend. Pleasure talking with you, and we will talk again, very soon. And I guess everyone have a good night.
Right on. Thank you for having me on.
And thanks for being here, brother. Do this again soon. Bye.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie. Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?
Weekend at Bernie's.